because people are just like, Blue Eyes, the structure deck. We're
I
getting
will
support. Hey everybody, what's up? Circus here, coming at you with this week's Rye Report, and it wouldn't be a Rye Report without Rye. How you
would be
doing,
a weird
buddy?
ride report.
It
I'm
would.
doing good, Circus. How are you?
I'm doing not so bad, I guess you could say.
There you go.
So this is where we sit and talk about the meta going on in tournaments over the past week. We usually bring
Yep.
Rye in for the Rye Report because he cast the majority of the tournaments on the channel, so he gets to see a lot of what's going on. Right now, I got Battle Phase Rising Sun going on. This is a top 4 match, so enjoy that while we sit and talk about the meta. I'm just gonna jump into Noble Knights. I've been playing that a
Yeah.
lot lately. They seem really good when they go first, but not so much when they go second, huh?
They are a really strong deck. And if you look at the available data in our Discord, and if you look at the available data in other tournaments, they're just flat out winning the most tournaments
Right.
this week. So they're probably going to be number 1 on power rankings, which is what I thought would happen, right? Desperado would fall. We're even seeing less and less Desperado top now. And they do struggle going second, but if you're playing, one of the recommended builds from either the heavy trap version or the semi-heavy trap version, even if you don't go first and you get Karma cut, if like you open up Raigeki Break or Karma, you're fine.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna be fine. You're gonna disrupt them on their turn, and then it's basically turn 1 at that point. It is pretty much so, like if you go first, you're like almost like your chances of winning are like 90%. And then if you go second, your chances of winning are like, I don't know, 45%, which is still pretty good for supposedly being hyper countered by that. I think another thing that's super important is disruption itself. Not many, even if a deck packs disruption, right? It's not guaranteed you'll get your disruption.
Mm-hmm.
And very popular decks that were heavy disruption invoke Neos. Well, that's the problem. You're playing Neos, so these builds that are starting to play double, triple ARF because of Mythiard's run and damage step, they can't establish back row because you equip ARF to them. Oh no, my own monster is destroying my back row. What do I do? It's a very unfortunate position to be in.
Right.
So yeah, a lot of players, they gave up on the whole, let's play Cosmic, let's play True Nade, and just said, you know what, man, screw it. I'm gonna play back row. How about that? And that's kind of really pretty much made it the best deck of the format as of right now. They are the deck to beat. Per the last Rye Report, everybody, put it down on paper. You should watch these videos. The 3 things I said Noble Knights would be the deck to beat.
Yeah.
Desperado would go down slightly, and Invoke Neos off a cliff. All 3 happened. So there you go.
So we saw in Battle Phase Rising Sun today, though, the winning deck list, he was running 2 Cosmics and less traps.
Yeah, there's a few variants, which, for people who are still undecided if they're going to invest or not, this is the most flexible balance build we've ever seen, probably because it's 30 cards. 30 card
Right.
balance is kind of wild. So we've seen there was a Jinzo version, I think, yesterday.
Oh, disgusting. Get it out of here.
That was weird. So he played the Jinzo trap card, which I believe when your opponent activates a trap card, you just summon Jinzo from your deck, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And of course, in balance, if that and the Noble Knight or the Noble Knight trap card, the only thing you play, every other duel, there's like a 50-50 that you're going to open it, which is kind of nuts. So
is that going to be the future of the deck, maybe?
No, that's definitely a cheese build, but it's kind of funny that it worked.
If it works, it's not a cheese play. That's all I'm saying.
True, exactly.
Especially if you can open it 50% of the time.
Yeah, no, it's something. It's something wild.
Yeah.
That being said, I guess talking about the future of Noble Knights, because there are tons of different builds you can play with the deck. There's no one build that's really, like you look at Trimids, there's one Trimid build, and that's it. If you go above and beyond any other build like that, the chances of you bricking just through the roof. You know what I mean?
Well, they got 1 or 2 spots in their trap lineup that can be tech cards. I mean, that's where,
the thing.
That's where you get
trap,
spicy.
right?
That's where it becomes your deck.
Right. That's where you get different. You mix and match with it. But I
Right.
mean, with nuts, it's like, okay, well, I can play Triple Brothers. You know, I don't personally like that build, but you can play Triple Brothers Spell Specialist. You can play the Jinzo version. Don't like that build either. You can play Low Traps, which is something that we played with a lot. So, you know, what I hit COG with this season. You could play the Mythgard Econ version, and you know, now it's like, oh well, if you have Karma Cut, screw you. I'm gonna Econ take and keep my plays anyway, because you know, you activate your effect. They try to Karma you, and then bam, Econ, and then you get your effect anyway. So there's a lot of cool builds to go in with it. As far as longevity wise for the deck, oh boy, there's some concerns.
Yeah.
It's not time to throw the alarms yet, but two things are happening on the 12th. Blue Eyes White Dragon is getting a decent boost, and probably more importantly, Book of Moon is releasing, which I think a lot of people are not giving that card the respect it requires, because it's pay to win, it's behind a paywall, and they want to, in their minds, start playing, you know, those little mental gymnastics and being like, I don't need that card. It's fine. It's okay. It's not even that good. You know what I mean?
Some
Uh,
people would say you're hyping it up.
some people would. And let me tell you, so Book of Moon is to monster effects what Cosmic Cyclone was to Dark Magical Circle. So do you remember, I'm sure you do, where you played against Dark Magician? They set up their entire combo, rod, circle, play the magician's illusion into double set. That is extreme. What was the one thing that could break it? Bam, cosmic. The first chance you chance, bam, cosmic into the circle. You're probably good. You're
Right.
gonna win, right?
You can summon as many dark magicians as you want now.
Yeah, it's like, you're not gonna banish me anymore,
Right.
so I'm good. I don't care. That's exactly what's going to happen with Book of Moon. You set up your entire, you Madrat, you Boars, Merlin's in the grave, Traps in the grave. Very first thing I do, bam, Book of Moon onto your Madrat. Okay, activate Merlin, bam, second Book of Moon or a Cosmic Cyclone onto your follow-up Merlin. Now you can't even do Merlin. Your Merlin got used up. Your monsters are both face down, or one of them is missing an equip, and you can do nothing about it because now we've changed your Merlin. It is really, really, really strong. And the one thing people seem to not be looking at is it is a spell card, which means in balance control decks, Goki, Teller Knights probably more so, because they got some pretty good support in the selection box with the Ouroboros, and any Star Seraph, or even just Neos. Anything that plays balance, or anything that plays like Fire Reload or something like that. For disruption, it was trap cards, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you could guarantee open up at least one disruption with a balance build, Teller Knights or Neos. Now you can almost guarantee you open up two if you get, you know, average luck. You're going to get your whatever Karma Cut, Raigeki Break, Canadia, Floodgate, and then you're also going to get a Book of Moon in addition to that, which is a scary thought.
Yeah, because I guess there wasn't a
Going
lot
into it.
of spell disruption before.
Offerings to the Doomed, right? Like that's
Right.
what people use. It was just Offerings to the Doomed. That comes with a high
That was a
cost.
very high cost. Yeah.
Yeah. So now anyone that played, so Blackwings, for example, they play the offerings. They'll just play with Book of the Moon now, and now they can just OTKU faster with getting their draw power on top
Mm-hmm.
of that. So, you know, it is. You know, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. There is some possibility potentially that the deck does kind of get checked by that single card coming into the metagame. Will it completely drop off the face of the planet? Of course not, right? Even Dark Magician played under Cosmic Cyclone. It's not the end of the world. But
And realistically, less than half the players are gonna have Book of Moon. All you free to play players, how do you like it now? I'm just kidding.
I
But
mean, listen,
realistically, a lot of people aren't gonna have the card, right?
do you remember when Fiendish Chain came out and I said this card is going to be good? And then we checked, it was like top 16 of one of our battle phases, and 15 of the
Right.
top 16 had Fiendish
Yeah.
Chain. Maybe not a lot of players, but the players that'll be topping and winning
Yep.
tournaments will be.
They will have the
So,
card, yeah.
you know, like the 1% that will have it will be in every single tournament, free, pay to win. It doesn't matter. They'll be there. Playing with
Just
the
a
card.
quick aside then, how do you feel about it being behind such a good card being behind a paywall like that?
I talked about it a little bit in the selection box video. I think it's just really stupid by Konami. I think putting something there's so many things wrong with the selection box, and we've talked about this so many times.
Right.
This card, if it was a main box UR, I'd be fine with that. If it was in selection box and selection box was like a permanent thing, like not even just gems, like you still have to pay money for it, but it was like a permanent thing, not a
Like
limited
year
time
round.
limit,
Yeah.
I'd be fine with it. It's just this combination of being limited time, and when it comes back, it resets it resets where you were, so you can't even
Oh,
like
yeah,
buy
that's
and then
terrible.
go
You can't
in.
pick up where you left off.
It forces people to like actually sit down if you want to be competitive and be like, all right, well, I guess I'm not going to eat this month because I really need to push it, like that's a lot of like, I'm not even joking, people are actually making that conversation like, yeah, I'm going to skip out on a meal for the entirety of the month so I can afford 3 Book of Moon. It's kind of wild, you know what I mean?
It's gonna be hundreds
uh,
of dollars for this card.
One full clear on average is going to be $100.
Oh, so it's only
So
300 bucks for 3? Ah, we can do
yeah.
that.
We can do that, no problem. Let's go.
Yeah. We
It's
got that
just, yeah, I
DLE
mean,
money.
I don't know, man. It's not something I like to see in the game.
Mm-hmm.
I would prefer, and I was giving compliments to Konami because I was like, man, they're really. I think they might have watched our video or something. They're making structure decks worth it again. They're making it so decks get support that they're supposed to, right? Like Noble Knights are getting support. The Teller Knights are getting support. All these old archetypes finally getting support that isn't really like some of it's UR, right? But even if it is a UR, you only need one copy of it. Realistically, this new box, you only have to go through it one time for most decks. You know what I mean?
Right.
You didn't have to go through it 3x times. So that was really cool of them. So I was like, okay, Konami's like starting off 2021 really like this might be a new Konami, and then bam, selection box hits, and you're like,
Book of
whoa,
Moon.
whoa, Book of Moon. The XCs are really good, which I'll talk about a little bit of those obviously we're spending a lot of time on Noble Knights. It's because it's the meta warping deck, but it's probably going to lose its status in a little bit. But yeah, it's just kind of crazy. Suction box, not a fan. I just at the very least make it year round.
All right, let's get into back to the meta then. Desperado, you said was going to drop off. How big of a drop off has it been?
Pretty much what I expected. It's still arguably the second best deck in the game. I think it's won 1 or 2 tournaments since the last time you guys did power rankings. I think it's probably going to be second or third place in power rankings. I don't know if you have any updated stats or not, but it's pretty bad of a drop. The
Mm-hmm.
problem is the Noble Knight matchup. It was already pretty bad before. Now it's even worse because they've got Brown
Custon and
Yeah.
okay.
So that's just been pretty bad for them to kind of deal with. And because of how free to play Noble Knights are, there's a lot of Noble Knights entering
Free
tournaments.
to play, sir. It costs $20. How dare you?
Yeah, mow someone's lawn. Anyway,
You
uh,
don't know
it's
how many people you just upset by saying that.
yeah, I'm sure. Listen, guys, no memes. $20 for a deck this good is worth it. You need to go do it. If you got to mow someone's lawn, plow some snow. If you're in a different country and the conversion rate screwed you, I'm sorry. There's not much you can do there. Uh, it is what it is.
Right. Get the deck.
It's really good for how cheap it is. But yeah, like it because people saw Mythyard destroy with it in damage step, right? Everyone's been playing it now, even if it's played pretty poorly. And it's at that point where even a poorly played Noble Knight can defeat like an average Desperado. So that's kind of heavily impacted, what that deck can really do. It's not nearly as bad as how bad Invoke Neos was impacted, but it's like considerable. It's still probably, if you didn't want to play Noble Knights, one of the other better decks in the metagame. It's not really going to improve that much with Book of Moon, unfortunately, I believe. Just because like the Karma Cut combo is so strong and the core is so tight. You know what I mean? Like you need your triple Desperado, you need the head judging, you need these cards to activate your skill. You know
And
what I
they're
mean?
running a few garnets, or at least one garnet, right? Just to get their flip effects or whatever, so they can get Master of
Yeah,
Destiny. And
yeah. That's so it's kind of like I don't know. Like some of them do play Cosmic, and I guess they could replace Cosmic with Book of Moon, but like that's if your option is between Cosmic or Book of Moon, you can't play both. Like the deck's showing its limits essentially, right? Like we had a limit on how good the deck could be, and I think we're approaching that as more and more of these better decks come out because there's a bunch of other decks we got to talk about that have been improving as well. that also have decent Desperado matchups, not just Noble Knights that kind of come with the new box and are getting support in the selection blocks.
Well,
So
Desperado, it seemed like before you would counter them. You would do something to get one of the monsters off the board, and then it's like, well, I'm going to do this. And it's like,
right,
damn, I can't follow up. But Noble Knights, it seems like it's like, go ahead, and then I'll take care of that.
I have
And
unlimited
Desperado's like,
trap
I'm going to do
cards.
this. And it's like, okay, I'll do that then. So that it seems like, Noble Knights actually can answer their plays very easily, where other
I
decks
guess
were having problems with that before.
kind of looking at the breakdowns, I guess we can kind of go over that. I'm looking at one Desperado topped in Rising Sun. Now, Rising Sun does usually have less players, so let's look at some other stuff. We look at Battle Phase EU with Mythyard. We had 5 Desperado top and 5 Noble Knights top, but all the Desperados died really early on. We look even further. Earlier than that, we have Battle Phase 168, 9 Noble Knights top, 4 Desperado tops. So you can see disparity there. A little bit further than that, 8 Noble Knights, 4 Desperado. So overall, Desperados is being dominated by
Well,
better decks right now.
I guess Noble Knights, and have like a very kind of like linear opening play, or the optimal play or whatever. But once you get going, it's very flexible, right? So
Yeah,
you
from
have a
what you can
real
do, yeah.
easy time
It's one of those
responding.
decks. It's one of those decks where it's like you're like a Witchcrafter or a Crystron player, where a good player versus the great player, you can tell. And when the deck does, reach either power creep status or, it gets a limit or something like that. The players who are great are still going to say it's an amazing deck, just like Witchcrafter, right? There's that whole controversy: is Witchcrafter actually good? Well, in like 3 players' hands, it is, and then everyone else doesn't know how to play it. That's
Right.
probably what's going to happen with this deck, realistically, because the amount of people that I see misplay on stream and they just go on like to top really high or even win the event, compared to like when we did Damage Step and it was just like really really good Noble Knight plays. It's like night and day. It really is when you're looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
So, Desperado Barrel Dragon, I think with the upcoming support, they're still going to be relevant. They're still going to be okay, like meta in the meta, but they're not meta defining anymore. No one likes coin flip metas, so
Yeah, that wasn't a
get it
good
out of here.
month. They had their month and a half or whatever it was. Though. Get out of
Yeah,
here.
it was kind of wild. So, but I think we'll still see it, and it may even still win tournaments here and there. But I don't think it's the deck to beat anymore. So, I'm
All
good
right.
with it.
Talking about another deck that needs to get out of here. You brought it up a little bit before. Invoke Neos. Is it?
Yeah,
Are we
Invoke
finally seeing the
Neo.
end of it, or is it finally getting power crept? What's going on here?
So Invoke Neos was the deck that just got absolutely butchered by Noble Knights, right? Because a lot of people say Invoke Neos, Invoke Neos, Invoke Neos. Why aren't we calling it Invoked Winda Neos? Because the
Right.
Winda is what's really making that deck work. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's
Without
what
it, yeah,
really.
you have no
Yeah.
stall.
If you took out the Neos engine, the deck
Yep.
would be fine. If you took out the Invoke engine, as multiple people do, they Cosmic the Invocation, they Lancia, they lose their Alistair engine, the deck still functions. If you take out the Winda, from what we just saw from Fire Kings, let's ignore Noble Knights. The Rogue deck, I think on the Power Rankings Rogue deck, what was it, like bottom of the tier list? If you put in Fire Kings, that deck immediately folds and lets them win a whole tournament, a
Right.
couple tournaments actually in battle phase. So it's very obvious that that deck is just abusing Winda. People even like what as far to say is like, oh, you know what, the Stratos version is more aggressive and it's a little bit better, but that deck has ultimately not done anything compared,
Right.
to the Winda version. Even if that's true, which I personally don't believe it is. Um, I just the data says otherwise. Winda has always been the key card to helping that deck stall essentially to victory.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get, one of the best archetypes in the game right now with a free Bryonic Dragon that just bounces it back to the hand, it's a wrap, dude. What are you supposed to do? You know what I mean? Like now the deck has been boiled down to like what everyone else has to do. Karma Cut turn 1, Raigeki Break turn 1, or you lose the whole thing. Like it's what it
Right.
is. It is what it is. It doesn't matter if you have more stall cards. They're just going to bounce you anyway. So that has just been kind of unfortunate for them, and because of that, like it's so bad that people just don't even want to like enter with the deck anymore. That's how Ritual Beast won a tournament this week as well. They didn't have to face a single Invoke Neos. They were
Yeah.
like,
They're
no
like, no
Invoke Neos, we're
Purgatrio.
good.
Oh, we're
Yeah,
in there, baby. We're in there.
It was just a main decked Noble Knight hate. Like there was like between the main and the deck, there was like Cosmic in the main. I think there was Transmigration Prophecy, Light Imprisoning Mirror, and the side there was Network Trap Hole. It's like I've never seen someone literally just play a whole bunch of anti-Noble Knight cards in the main and side and just like run through all the Noble Knights till the
Right.
finals. That was so funny. It was pretty good though. Good meta call, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, Invoke Neos, the one thing that like we have to keep in mind, Book of Moon.
Right.
So now the question is, can the deck play Book of Moon effectively, right? And will that either replace some of the traps, or will they just add it to their lineup, or like how are they looking with that deck? And it does, and I do think that's going to be one of the decks that kind of abuses it a little bit. Book of Moon, for people that don't know, can be used on your own cards, not just your opponent's cards.
Hmm.
So you normal summon Alistair, they Karma Cut, they Fiendish Chain, they, anything, any sort of disruption. Boop, you
Flip
drop
it
Book of Moon on your
down.
Alistair, you still get your search effect, and Karma Cut fizzles, Fiendish Chain doesn't do anything, etc., etc., etc. So pretty good. Not that bad. Not gonna lie, that's pretty good. You know, so
I was thinking
uh,
maybe you'd want to use it attacking him with Purgatrio, right? Flip him
you could
down
do
into
that as well.
defense and just
Yeah,
pierce.
very first turn. You don't have to wait. If you have the Purgatrio, you can go for the Pierce if you want to do that. You could definitely do that. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting, especially since this deck has not been able to play Cosmic since it feels like the dawn of time at this point.
Right.
This is another kind of pseudo, not like Cosmic, but like it can do some things Cosmic can do in terms of
Hmm.
cheesing your opponent. Choosing their back row. It'll be interesting to see what happens. So expect a slight boost out of Neos. I still think, unfortunately, just them having to rely on window way too much and the rest of the metagame kind of getting faster around that. I don't think they're going to make a huge comeback, but they're not dead. I don't think they're going to be dead. I think they're going to still be played just now with Book of Moon added in, because that deck's literally just as much as URs as you can find and toss them in.
Right. These are
So
all my favorite URs. Okay, how
yeah,
about a deck that's been doing really, really well lately, and I'm not really sure why. Maybe you can get into this.
sure.
Thunder Dragons.
Thunder
They
Dragons. Ooh,
were like
baby.
third place in the power rankings, I believe, last week. Now,
Mhm.
Desperado soaked up almost all the points to themselves. Them and Noble Knights last week soaked up all the points, and then like I think Thunder Dragons were like a distant third
Yeah.
with Invoke Neos or something like that. But why are we seeing such a resurgence with Thunder Dragons?
The deck's really good. It got support through indirectly through the new XCs that came out. So M7, for example, the deck's really good at turboing out rank sixes. So against Noble Knights, for example, if you go turn one, you make a force focus. Well, the Madrant and the Boars become level 5 to activate their effects. So now they're forced to do a different play than their standard opener. So that's a pretty good matchup into Noble Knights. If you go first, you don't have to set back, or you can just play Force Focus and then kind of screw them over in that respect. And then against Desperado in general, they just have so much floating that Desperado has a hard time kind of piercing through them. And even if you do, between those two, they have the new M7 card, which is really cool. That's the one where you summon him, you get to either bounce a monster on your opponent's side of the field, or one card from either player's graveyard back to your own hand. So one thing that we saw a little bit earlier is you play DD Crow, which is amazing. You banish a card from your opponent's graveyard. So Invocation, the Noble Knight Trap, Gwynnifer, all those, boop, banish, right? And then you M7, bring the DD Crow back to your hand and play it again.
Oh,
So
disgusting.
that is pretty gross. Like you said, it is a distant third place. I do think that people are starting to see there's something there, and people are slowly starting to pick the deck up, and it's picking up steam for sure. It still does fall to the power of other stronger decks, but it's not that bad as kind of like that. Like you have to keep it in mind that it's there and it's happening. And yeah, 11 year, to be honest, 11 year finally being free to play has probably influenced people to actually try
Right.
the deck. It's not like the biggest reason that it's like all of a sudden the top tier deck, but it's something you have to take into consideration when people are playing it. So it's a good deck. I think it'll have a nice future, especially with more rank sixes coming out. I'm assuming because it's probably the best deck at making the rank sixes, and then the level duplication build that people have been discovering, really nice to make pretty much any XCs that they want from any hand. So We'll see if it continues. I have good expectations out of it. It did well in damage step as well. I think it got top 16, top 8. So it's not that bad at all.
Now, I guess on a side here, we're watching the finals here of Rising Sun, Battle Phase Rising Sun, and it's Shiranui versus Noble Knights. And Shiranui actually went into an XZ's plays before going into their synchro plays. Do you think eventually we're just going to have XZ's replacing synchros altogether?
Mm, that is a tough one. I
Maybe not
think,
altogether. I just feel like the balance is going to shift towards XZ's. They just seem
yeah,
so much more
probably.
versatile. And
Yeah, the thing with synchros is the monster still gets into the graveyard. So certain combo decks want a monster since the graveyard. Konami might force it where XCs are just more popular. You'll always see more XCs than synchros because let's say I just don't use my extra deck at all. Well, I might as well toss in some generic XCs, right? Like a cowboy or something like that. Just
Mhm.
just in case those opportunities come up, I can go into the side deck. Or the extra deck. You can't say that for synchros because it's not like, oh, I'm gonna
I'm just
throw
going to
in
throw a
a
tuner in the deck and
tuner,
see what
Yeah.
happens.
So you're always gonna see more XCs than you'll see synchros, where synchros will just be like kind of like my play style is synchros. You know what I mean?
Right.
And there's so many XCs that are generic as well. That's why you're seeing, for example, the Stick Seraph combo and Deltros everywhere. Like that's just happening, and you can't. It's just kind of like, okay, it's a generic, so I guess that's legal. That's fine.
It's such a quicker mechanic, it feels like.
Yeah. As far as I know, in TCG, both are kind of used about the same
Hmm.
with links as well, but they also have a 40 card deck. So I think moving forward, just in general, you're going to see a lot more XCs, but synchros aren't out of it totally. Like they could easily release a bunch of broken synchro cards and we'll have to play them in our decks. So we'll see.
We'll see. We'll see. All right. Now, you said there was a few other decks you wanted to get to. I mean, we did
Yes.
Desperado. We did what? Neos. We did Thunder Dragons. What else is there?
Yeah, so let's talk about Teller Knights, the
Oh,
newest
yes.
control deck on the block that's been making people kind of perk up and be like, "Ooh, this is interesting." Teller Knights, they excel at spamming the hell out of their board with monsters. They just
Hmm.
have so many monsters, so that's been really cool to see out of them. And then they just play a bunch of heavy traps, and as we all know, heavy traps are amazing in Yu-Gi-Oh! I think with Book of Moon adding even more disruption, there might be a possibility that Tellarknights end up being like one of those decks that's fighting for a top spot, just because they have more disruption now. On top of that, there's a really cool card that I've been testing at Omega, and I haven't sat down and done testing yet, but I will be very soon. But there's a card that I'm really excited for, the Evil Swarm Ouroboros. That card's insane, man.
Yeah.
That card is
How come?
insane. So it requires 3 material, but if you're able to go like turn 1 and make the 3 materials, so right now the only 2 decks I can really think of that can do that reliably would be either the Tiller Knight or the Stick Seraph combo,
Hmm.
where you play your Seraph and your Sovereignty and you make a rank right away. So what he does is he has 3 different effects, and you can only activate 1 effect per turn. You can only activate it once, where I believe it can bounce a card, it can banish a card from the graveyard, or really strong going turn 1, you can randomly take a card out of your opponent's hand, and I think you banish it or you return it to the deck or something like that. So if they imagine they go first, turn 1, they pick a card, that card's not in your opening hand anymore permanently.
Oh, that's just terrible. Yeah.
that's, that's really strong. So, Teller Knights with like a Vega play with Skybridge, they're not going to be as reliably able to make it turn 1, but they can make it. Stick Seraph, if they get the combo, is like guaranteed that they make it turn 1. So it'll be interesting to see how that Xyz card works in practicality versus on paper. Because on paper, that's really strong. I really like that effect. So it'll be hype to see that card in action. Even if it doesn't, Book of Moon needs to find a home. Triple Book of Moon is probably going to happen. And any deck that plays balance, which Teller Knights and Goki are the 2 big control decks I think of. However, Goki kind of has a limit because its archetype is, not really doing anything. Where
Did you say
Teller Knights
garbage?
do.
I'm sorry. I have something in my ear. I thought you said
Yes,
garbage. Okay.
yes, I did.
Okay.
You know, now you're going to get carried by both Necro Valley and Book of Moon. Let's go.
Right.
So, you know, like it's going to be interesting to see if Teller Knights can really, because that's what a lot of people want. They want Teller Knights to grab and become the control deck of the metagame, which it might with this support. You know, Teller Knights are already annoying to play into as is. So imagine instead of opening, you know, like the counter trap and then like a super team, they open the counter trap and they open Book of Moon for disruption. It's going to be really disgusting to play against, especially with, you know, this Noble Knight era of the metagame we're in. That card's going to be really good against the deck. So, I mean, it's going to be good against a lot of decks. So we'll see. So that, you know, those are why I'm looking for the new cards to really come in. Oh, I guess Blue Eyes. We can talk about Blue Eyes. That's going to be the next big one.
Blue Eyes, is there something going on I hadn't heard of?
The structure deck. We get even more cards out of the structure decks.
That's all. It's just, I just, I don't know where I'm at with this. I feel like there's sometimes decks that come out or cards that come out even before they come out. They're so hyped up, and then they come out and they're just not there. They don't perform. Is that what's gonna happen here?
I think that's what's gonna happen with Blue Eyes, man.
Do you think it's gonna fall on his face? Because people are just like, Blue Eyes, the structure deck. You know, we're getting support.
I will say, one of the things about it is Noble Knight or Blue Eyes has always actually had a pretty good matchup into Noble Knights. The Spirit of White banishing back row is so annoying.
Right.
It's so annoying when they.
Hey, where'd Gwen go? Where'd Gwen go?
Yeah, like when it happens once, you're like, okay, dude. When it happens again, because they subbed it off of Azure Eyes, you're like, okay, I hate you so much right now.
They bring out that synchro that negates your graveyard effects.
Yeah, you can't go in from the grave, and then the Azure Eyes itself, you can't Driston, you can't Pelennor, you can't rank 5, you can't cuss it in for a whole turn. It's like, come on, man! Like, what is this? You know, and you can't even swing over them unless you equip Gallatin. Oh my God, that's kind of annoying. And you know, moving forward, it's going to be even more annoying because now you have one that can't be destroyed by battle, has to be destroyed by card effect, or it'll banish your monsters. You have they gave him Dragon or King of D or something like that, where you can like search your melody, but that's probably going to be playing Thunder Dragons actually.
Right. It always ends up in another deck.
Structure. Yeah. So I don't know if that'll be too relevant. It's still bricking though. It's still bricks, even with all this support. It's still bricks because they didn't really give it that card where it's like, okay, this card will make it so you're as consistent as ever because you're guaranteed a Blue Eyes turn 1. Even guaranteeing a Blue Eyes turn 1 isn't really like they want to be guaranteeing their Synchro Monster turn 1. You know what I mean? If you're able to guarantee that, the deck will just be propelled into this amazing sphere.
Right.
Just getting a couple Blue Eyes on the board, that's whatever. You know, that's really not anything anymore.
It's not that big of a deal.
So while I think the deck is definitely going to get a nice boost in strength and popularity, and I mean the deck is still fine right now. If you God handed every single time playing Blue Eyes White Dragon, you'll end up in top 4 of damage step. Just that's what happened in Saturday. You know, not top 4 was Noble Knight, Noble Knight, Noble Knight, Blue Eyes.
Right.
So you know, but then the moment he bricks,
it's over.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you have a good Noble Knight matchup. You're gonna open your hand, look at it, Blue Eyes, Blue Eyes, Blue Eyes, Spirit of White. Your turn. I lose.
Right. There's nothing I can do.
You know, so it is what it is, man. Like, so, you know, people were talking about playing balance and Blue Eyes. I don't know how you're going to play balance when you open up Blue Eyes as your only monster, but, you know, bless you if you can figure that out. I've been trying to break the deck, but all I've been coming up with is literally the same. If I open God, I win. If I don't, well, we tried, boys. You know, like the only thing that changes is you don't lose to Luna Lights anymore, which, I mean...
That's an important matchup.
Yeah, it's an important matchup. So I don't expect too much to change out of Blue Eyes. People are definitely, it's good. You're going to see more people play it, and you're going to see it top more. It's just because people are buying the structure deck and playing
more
it.
people are going to play it. Yeah.
It is cool that Azure Eyes is in the structure, though, and a lot of cards are in the structure, and they just greatly decrease the cost. And the one thing you do have to keep in mind, boys, apparently this is the trend now. When a new main box comes out, they look at the last EX structure deck and say, we're going to give you support. That seems to be the way that we're going. So I'm willing to say the next main box, not the next mini, the next main box, or I guess it could be a mini because there's been a lot of Blue Eye support in mini boxes now that I think about it. But probably the next main, you'll probably see some Blue Eye support that really puts it over the top. If I had to guess.
All I have to say is Get the anime crap out of here.
Get the anime crap out of
I
here.
don't know. It's such a fanboy deck or whatever. I don't think I'm gonna buy it. Usually I buy the stuff and I play it, but I've never
Yeah.
played Dark Magician. I've never played Blue Eyes out of the principle of it.
Dang, circus out here. I mean, like I said, it's the same thing I always say about Blue Eyes. It's not bad, but it's not great either. It's just kind of like a rogue deck. But
What
I think it'll.
episode is Noble Knights from?
I don't think he's in the anime.
Exactly.
Got him, boys. So, but I think that's pretty much all the decks. I'm thinking, was there anything else really?
I was gonna ask you a rogue deck prediction, something that might do well.
I think Ritual Beasts have a pretty good chance of coming back into the metagame, but not, they still lose to we saw a Noble Knight lose to a Ritual Beast lose to a Noble Knight's grind game, which is not something like you'd see, right? Because the game was going on forever, and we were like, okay, it's got to end eventually. Like, what, like, is he just going to get Petalfin recycled over and over and over? The Ritual Beast player ran out of Ritual Beast for Petalfin to
Oh my god.
I was like, wow. And then he decked out, and I was like, wow. If you can't even outgrind decks anymore, so I don't think Ritual Beast is coming back into the metagame. I think they're going to stay at Rogue tier. I think King of the Rogue tiers is going to be that Thunder Dragon, maybe even becoming meta relevant. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not quite confident in it yet. We're always going to see Blue Eyes down there. Any control deck that plays balance, Goki, anything like that with Moon, they're going to be there. As unfortunate as it is, you have to keep your mind on it. Witchcrafter is an interesting one, because while they lose heavily to Book of Moon, I was talking about going turn one. Now think, they're trying to sit on their Shemitah or sit on their Veer. You just Book of Moon them, and either they're forcing plays or they have to put their Veer in defense and they just lose at that point.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I'll also have to check with Neg and see how many tournaments he's playing in this week, and that'll tell you how well Witchcrafters will do this week.
That's the other thing to keep in mind, though. Witchcrafter is now a balanced deck that can play Book of Moon. Oh God.
What?
So I don't know what to think about Witchcrafter, because let's be honest, it's really not that bad of a deck, but it's just not great. It's kind of like just that's a cool deck. It's powerful enough where you have to side deck at least a single card against it, but it's so slow that I can side deck one card against it and just know I'm gonna draw it before they kill me. So it is what it is. So it'll be interesting to keep that that deck in mind. I don't know who in their right mind is going to be playing triple Book of Moon Witchcrafter, because that seems super expensive, when you could play literally any other deck with triple Book of Moon and not be as expensive. But
It's always gonna be expensive.
We'll see. Gladiator Beast is another balanced deck. So pretty much, yeah, any deck that uses balance or is a heavy control deck, I'm interested to see what Book of Moon will do to
That
it.
deck's getting expensive because you got to have the Rescue Rabbit now and the Book of Moon.
Oh boy. Yeah, it's not that good.
And it's not that good of a deck. So there you go.
Yeah. So anything like that, I want to keep an eye on, because the other thing about Book of Moon is it's very low skill, right? Like people who know all the interactions of Element Saber Malay who are going to push the card to its limit. But even if you don't, you could just literally chain Book of Moon to a lot of things, and that's 90% of the time going to be like the correct play.
Yeah, it's good enough.
So, it's kind of like with Element Saber Malay, who, remember, people just, you play one card, immediately flip it down with no thought in their mind.
Shotgun.
And it usually just ended up being good anyway, even if they didn't know what they were doing.
Right.
And then when it wasn't, oh boy, it was embarrassing. It's like, I flip you down. Okay, I fusion summon.
Right.
And then they lose. That's pretty much what you're going to see with Book of Moon. But, we'll see. We'll see.
All right. I think we're going to leave it there because the tournament just ended. We just saw Noble Knights beating. Can you really call it Shiranui anymore? Or is it Synchro Zombie Synchro?
Man, I forgot about that deck. Wow, Shiranui is going to be able to play Book of Moon. Huh.
Yeah, they just lost in the finals to Noble Knights. So there you go.
I think even if you gave them maybe not full power Shiranui, but relatively full power, maybe back when like the Limit 2 was available on the tuner and everything else was unlimited, I think even now Shiranui would struggle, because you make your big board you know, but then what are you going to do against Hey True Nade King Custon, and you just lose the game?
Right.
And now there's DD Crow in the game to just take
Yeah, I
out.
don't have to destroy you. I just have to return you to
So
the deck.
it's kind of
Yeah.
unfortunate that Shiranui got neutered because, you know, Invoke Neos was already kind of overtaking them. And then Konami just, you know, actively made the choice to nerf everything in the game. So Shiranui became the best deck, where it really wasn't before. Like the last time it was the best deck was Grass, and then Grass got nerfed and it was pretty much kind of in the sidelines, but, you know, with other decks being good. And now I really do believe that if had they kept it that way, the deck would have eventually just been power crept by other decks, you know, especially now that Blue Eyes is getting quote unquote support. There's going to be multiple decks that just straight up counter the old Shiranui. They could have easily left it in the game, but I get it. People got tired of seeing it. Konami got tired of not making any money because it's a mini box. I get it. I get it, Konami. All right. You want money. I get it.
Who doesn't? I want money. I want more money.
So,
all right. You know what? This discussion was money. I want more of it.
True. Instead of buying Triple Book of Moon, buy tier 3 subs, boys. Let's go.
Oh, what a plug. And with that, we're going to say get in the Discord because that's free. It doesn't cost money. Neither does the new player help. Neither do our tournaments except damage stuff. But besides that, I think that's everything. So check out Rye when he's calling all these wonderful tournaments. And check me out on Saturday nights when I do the new player stream. We're going to get out of here. I'm Circus. That's Rye.
Bye, YouTube.
We'll see you next time.